So today we're going to be looking at factorising, and we're going to be factorising using a common factor. So we're first going to remind ourselves of expanding brackets because factorising is a lot to do with brackets, okay? So if we were to expand these brackets or multiply them out, we multiply all the terms on the inside of our bracket with whatever term is on the outside of the bracket. So if we were to multiply this out, I'm sure you'll manage this. 4 times x gives us 4x, and then 4 times 3 gives us plus 12. So that's us expanded that bracket. Let's just do this other one. 3 times 2x gives us 6x, and then 3 times negative 5 gives us negative 15. Okay, so we previously learned this skill and mastered it, but for factorising, you need to be able to reverse this process. So we're basically going to be putting the brackets back in, and that process is called factorisation or factorising. So we're essentially going from this expression, okay, without brackets, and we're going to be putting the brackets back in. So it's like the opposite of expanding brackets, and that is what we're going to be doing today. So let's look at this first example. We're being asked to factorise 6a plus 12. And how we're going to do that, we need to think about what divides into both 6a and 12. Well, you can divide 1, 2, 3, 6. They all divide into 6a and 12. And these are called common factors. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 6 are all common factors of 6a and 12. And that's what we're trying to find. We need to find a common factor between our terms that we're trying to factorise in our expression. And we need to identify the highest common factor. So in this case it is 6. So to start our factorising, we are going to take 6 outside of the bracket, like this, and work out what goes on the inside. Because we want a number on the outside or a term on the outside of our bracket, and we want to figure out what now goes inside the bracket. So to do that, we know that if we were to expand brackets, we multiply whatever is on the outside with what is on the inside. So if we're trying to get this first term here, what do we need to times 6 by to get 6a? Well, it's just simply a, because if we were to multiply that out, 6 times a gives us 6a. And then to get the last term, what do we multiply 6 by to get plus 12? So 6 times something, we need to get plus 12. Plus 2. Okay, and we can always, what's good about these questions is that you can go back and double check to make sure that you've got the right answer. So 6 times a gives you 6a, correct? And then 6 times 2 gives us 12. Okay, let's look at some more examples. Okay, this one we have to factorise 5x subtract 15. Firstly, find the common factors. We've got 1 and 5. We need to find the highest common factor, which is 5, and that is what we are going to use. So we need to take 5 outside of the bracket. I'm going to start by writing this out, so 5, and then open your bracket, leave a space, close your bracket, so you make sure you're remembering to close your bracket as well. And now we need to work out what goes inside the bracket. So 5 times what gives us 5x? 5 times x gives us 5x. And then 5 times what gives us negative 15. So we've got a negative this time. What do we times 5 by to get negative 15? Well, we times it by negative 3. And that is your final answer. It's been factorised. You want to double check that there's no common factors left within your bracket as well. So if you can pause the video here, using this example, can you try to factorise 3x subtract 18? Okay, hopefully you have unpaused and managed to give this one a go. So same as the previous example, we are going to find common factors between 3x and 18. So we've got 1 and 3. What's the highest one? Well, it's 3, so that's the number that we're going to use. So we're going to start by writing it outside of our bracket, and now we need to figure out what goes on the inside. So 3 times what gives us 3x? Well, 3 times x. And 3 times what gives us negative 18? Negative 6. And you can go back, double check, make sure it works. So 3 times x gives us 3x, and 3 times negative 6 gives us negative 18, which is correct. Okay, third example. This time we have to factorise 24 plus 4y. So you'll notice that the letter term comes second, but that's totally fine. We're just going to use the exact same process. So firstly, find the common factors. We've got 1, 2 and 4. And then what is the highest common factor? Well, it's 4, and that is what we're going to use. So we're going to start by writing 4 on the outside of our brackets and now work out what goes on the inside. So 4 times what gives us 24? 4 times 6, and then 4 times what gives us plus 4y, plus y. And then we can go back and check. 4 times 6 gives us 24, 4 times plus y gives us 4y. Okay, so we're essentially using our skills of expanding brackets, but and to double check our answer. Okay, pause the video here and give this one a try. Okay, hopefully you managed to give that one a try. Unpause now. Let's go through the answer. So first, find the common factors. We've got 1 and 5. What's the highest common factor? Well, it's 5, and that's the number we're going to use. So we're going to write it outside of our brackets. 5 times what gives us 30? 5 times 6, and then 5 times what gives us plus 5b, plus b. And you can double check. 5 times 6 is 30, yep, and then 5 times plus b gives us plus 5b. Correct, so well done if you got that one. Okay, example 4. This time we are going to factorise 12x subtract 8. So common factors 1, 2 and 4 this time. What is the highest common factor? Well, it's 4, and that's the number we're going to use. So we're going to write it on the outside of our bracket. So 4, and then open your brackets and close them. 4 times what gives us 12x. Okay, the other examples were pretty straightforward for this first bit because you would just write down the letter, but we need to get 4 and multiply it by something to get 12x. Well, we know to change a 4 to 12 we times it by 3, and we also have this x that we need to multiply by. So 4 times 3x there, and then 4 times what gives you negative 8. Be careful with your negatives, remember, negative 2. And that is that fully factorised. There's no common factors left within our brackets. Okay, so you could have numbers in front of your letter term. That's absolutely fine. Okay, and as always, pause the video here and give this one a go. Okay, hopefully you managed to give that one a go. Let's go through the answer. So find common factors. We have 1 and 3 as our common factors. What is the highest one? Well, it's 3. So that's the number we're going to use. Write 3 on the outside of your bracket. And now we need to figure out what's going to go on the inside of our bracket. 3 times what gives us 21x? Well, 3 times 7 gives us 21. And then we need an x in there as well. So 7x you should have. And then 3 times what gives us negative 9, negative 3. So well done if you got that. And again, watching out, we have a negative in there. Okay, let's look at this example. So we're being asked to factorise 6x plus 24y. And you'll see in this example, we have 2 letter terms. Okay, so let's see what happens here. So firstly, find our common factors. We've got 1, 2, 3 and 6 because we're looking at what can we divide 6x by and 24y by, and what are the common factors here. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 6. The highest one is 6, so that is what we're going to use. So we're going to write it in our bracket, on the outside of our bracket, sorry, and then we're going to start by working out what goes inside our bracket. So 6 times what gives us 6x? We need to times it by x to get 6x. Now what do we need to times 6 by to get 24y? So 6 times something is going to give us 24y. Well, 6 times 3 gives us 24. No, sorry, 6 times 4 gives us 24. and we have a y there as well. So inside a bracket we could end up with 2 letters. That's absolutely fine as long as they're not the same letter, because that means we have fully simplified it now. And then you can use your skills of expanding brackets to double check. 6 times x, yep, and then 6 times 4y gives us 24y, which is correct. Okay, again, could you please pause the video here and give this one a go? Okay, let's go through the answers. So, common factors are 1 and 7. What's the highest common factor? 7, so this is the number we're going to use. So we're going to start by writing that on the outside of our bracket, and now think about what is going to go on the inside. So 7 times what gives us 7a, well 7 times a, and then 7 times what gives us plus 28b. Well 7 times 4 gives us 28, and we've also got a letter term there, so we need to have plus 4b. So well done if you got that correct. Okay, so can you please factorise the following expressions? So I would like you to pause the video here and try these 6 questions using all the skills in the previous example. So pause the video here and work through these carefully, and then when you unpause we will go over the answers. Okay, let's go over the answers. So first one, 3x plus 6, you should have 3 bracket x plus 2. So our common factor is 3 here. Next one, 4y subtract 12, you should have 4 bracket y subtract 3. And question 3, you should have 3 bracket 3s subtract 8. And then question 4, so we've got 15 subtract 6c. You should have 3 bracket 5 subtract 2c. And then question 5, you should have 3 bracket x plus 6y. And the last question, you should have 6 bracket 2c plus 3d. So we're always making sure that these are fully factorised, and I'd always like you to double check what is on the inside of your bracket and make sure there's no more common factors left. Okay, so 2 more examples. First one looks like this. So we're being asked to factorise x squared plus 3x. So this time, all those previous examples, our common factor that we're using on the outside of our bracket was a number, but it could be a letter, and this is going to be the case here. So we're first going to think about our common factors here. So find the common factors. 1 is always going to be a common factor, but we don't have any letters in any numbers, in our first term. But we do have x squared, and remember this means x times x. So there is a factor of x here, and there's also a factor of x here because this means 3 times x. So essentially we've got 2 common factors, 1 and x. We've got an x here, and we've also got an x here. And we're going to use, if there's ever a letter as your common factor, that needs to be included. So we're going to be using x as our common factor that we're going to use on the outside of our bracket. So we're going to start by taking x on the outside, and now we need to figure out what we're going to put on the inside. So x times what gives us x squared. Remember, x squared means x times x. So we're just going to have x as our first term. So x times x gives us x squared. And then x times what gives us 3x. Remember, 3x side by side with nothing in between, that means 3 times x. So we must have to have 3 as our last term within our bracket. So we can check that. X times x gives us x squared, then x times 3 gives us 3x. Okay. A second example, we are being asked to factorise 8a subtract ab. Again, we're going to think about our common factors. Okay, 1 is always going to be a common factor, so that's going to be one of them. But this means 8 times a, and this means a times b. So we've got an a here, and we've also got an a in our second term. So our common factors are 1 and a, and remember, if there is a letter term, that is what we're going to use. So we're going to use A. We're going to start by taking it on the outside of our bracket, and now let's start filling the inside of our bracket. So A times what gives us 8A? Well, we need to times it by 8. And then A times what gives us negative AB. What's negative B? Okay, so last little task for you in this video. I would like to pause the video here and use the previous 2 examples to help you answer these 5 questions. So pause now. When you unpause, we'll go over the answers. Okay, let's see the answer. So the first one is x squared plus 5x. Well, our common factor we're going to use is x. You should have x bracket x plus 5. Next one, y squared subtract 6y. So you should have y bracket y subtract 6. Question 3, 5a plus ab. You should have a bracket 5 plus b. Question 4, 12x subtract xy. So you're going to have x bracket 12 subtract y. And question 5, we've got 4ab plus 5a squared. So this is sort of combining those 2 examples together in this question. So our common factor is a, so we need a times 4b to give us 4ab, and then a times 5a to give us 5a squared. Really well done if you got that last question in particular.